We live, and we are 3, 2, 1 live. Chillmonger joined by the ATLBlerd hashtag Justice for Roger Fortson. Why are you getting political on me, man? Who's
I'm
Roger
always
Fortson?
political.
Is Roger Fortson the man who was a law-abiding citizen, got some knocks on his door, and through his people he couldn't see who it was because that's how sketchy they are. Is that who I'm thinking of? Roger Fortson?
Exactly. For those who may not know, first and foremost, my name is Mark, aka ATLBlerd. I'm here in the States in Georgia. Roger Fortson was a member of the United States Air Force who lived in Florida. There was a 911 call that apparently involved his apartment complex, but not necessarily his apartment. He hears a loud banging on his door. He gets his legally owned firearm, goes to the door, opens the door, and is shot dead in point 0.3 seconds. The firearm that he had was pointed down at the ground. It was not raised up at the officer, and he was immediately executed. So that individual, they recently lost their job as of last Friday. That person still has not been arrested and charged for Roger Fortson's murder because Roger Fortson was not violating the law. He was within his legal rights and parameters to have a firearm. It is legal in the United States to have a firearm and to open your door with the firearm, just as long as it's not pointed at anybody, and his was not. So I want justice for Roger Fortson and his family. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Sorry, I just didn't want to hear clicking because I was trying to find the video.
Yeah.
I couldn't find a video. I couldn't find a video in the time you were talking, but this is a live stream, and I appreciate everyone's patience. Chad Kinsler's in the building. He says, "What's up, everyone? Do you recognize what photo that is? Like where that's from?"
Oh, absolutely. That's Wakanda right there.
Wait,
That is the Black Panther.
okay, what comic book?
That is during the not Priest. What's my game? Coach run. That was during the
All right,
coach run.
all right, you got it. Yeah, you got it. And then they remixed it for his second volume because he went 25 more comic books, and they did the kind of the same image, except instead of like the Wakanda behind him, it was more like advanced and intergalactically behind him.
Right.
We're gonna
Right.
talk about the series that what's his name did, or Sherilyn Eaton has done first. Here's the video of the.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't want to see him murdered.
I'm not gonna get to that point. And if this is on YouTube, I'm showing a YouTube video. They'll cut at exactly the moment.
Right.
But you can see the guy's knocking on the door, and
And then it stops right there.
then it stops right there. So
Right. I don't believe in watching us being executed as a form of entertainment. We hear descriptions of what happens, and that should suffice as far as I'm concerned. I get tired of seeing our black bodies strewn about social media for clicks, likes, and views. Roger, just trust me when I tell you, Roger opened the door with his gun at his side. Now, as a law-abiding citizen, as a multiple gun owner myself, if I'm not expecting any company and there's a knock on my door, guess what? I come to the door with my firearm. Now, it's never viewed, but it is readily available to defend myself and my property. He did not deserve to die. He did not deserve to be murdered. And there needs to be justice for Roger Fortson.
Joe Byron is not giving you justice.
It has nothing to do with Joe Biden. It has everything to do with that local prosecutor. This is a state crime.
You're right. You're right.
Charge.
The Democrats are not giving you justice, unless,
Don't do that.
of course,
this has nothing to do with the political party. It has nothing to do. And listen, and I know that you're just trying to poke the bear, but
no. What I'm trying to do is continue the Cornel West discussion that you right towards the ending of that stream. That's what I'm trying to do. But yeah, finish your sentence though.
Okay, so basically, this is a matter for local law enforcement. When I say local law enforcement, I mean the sheriff's department who's investigating. It needs to go to the state patrol, whoever does the investigating of the officers, as well as the state attorney for that particular jurisdiction. This has nothing to do with any type of political affiliation. And basically, what Chillmonger is referring to, Cornel West, is an academic. He's from my hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's also one of my frat brothers. He's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and he's running for president against Joe Biden and the other individual who I will not name. Cornel West has absolutely no shot on God's green earth of being president of the here United States. He's not qualified to be president of these here United States. And then the other day, Chillmonger on the Black Comic Lords live stream made a comment about he's voting for Cornel West, and I made some comments against Chill, considering the fact that he can't even vote in the U.S. Number one, and number two,
Hey,
that
that's what you
Cornel has
think.
no shot in hell in winning the presidency. So that's where all that comes from.
But,
Inside joke.
but you are right. He has no shot in hell. It's not something I'm complaining about. I'm saying that 4 years from now, another election will happen, and we'll know that that third party guy will have no shot of hell. 4 years from then, it'll be again the third party guy has no shot of hell. How do we get them there? Because how do we get, not we, but collectively, how
In
are
the
they ever
United
going to be
States,
realistic? There needs to be a guy who gets 2% of the vote in this election, then a third party guy who gets like 6% of the vote next time, and then it's 10% of the vote next time, and then all of a sudden we don't have to vote for these two guys because there's
here's
this underdog that maybe the underdog becomes less likely every single year. So it's a
here's
long-term gain.
Well, although I hear you and I understand the point that you're making, but you have to go back at this point 32 years, and that's the election of 1992. 1992 is when you had Bill Clinton, who was then the governor of Arkansas. You had George Bush, George H.W. Bush, who was the father of George H.W. Bush, who was the president.
Yeah.
The governor of Arkansas ran against the president, but then you had a random third party candidate by the name of Ross Perot. He was a Texas billionaire. I want to say he started the company Texas Instruments that a lot of people may know from calculators. They used to make calculators back in the day. He is by far the most successful third party candidate ever. The issue with that is because he was a Texas billionaire, he leached a lot of votes away from George H.W. Bush. In the 2000 election, when Al Gore ran against George W. Bush, you had Ralph Nader, who was a third party candidate. That individual, people who would vote normally for Al Gore, the things that he was espousing, that individual, Ralph Nader, leached votes for him. So typically, although I understand what you're saying, a lot of times the third party candidates will never ever get a majority of the votes. Even if you go forward 5, 10, 16 years from now, the only thing that they can and will do is play spoiler to one of the two major candidates. America is not built nowadays for a more than a two-party system. Fortunate or unfortunate, you have to play the game within the system as it's set. Otherwise, you're just wasting time and you're just throwing away your vote if you vote for one of the third-party candidates. I mean, we've had third-party candidates for
You
years.
are throwing away your vote for this election for the third party candidates, but let's talk about what vote local, and you need to build up local versions of the party. I'm all for I'll co-sign what you said. There's primary elections happening right now. What's his name? Jamal Bowman in New York City. Relatively decent guy. I'm not gonna, claim to know everything about him or say he's 100% perfect politician, but who he's facing up in the Democratic primary is the enemy. And Jamal Bowman. Do you know Jamal Bowman in New York City?
No, I haven't paid attention to New York.
Well, there's another guy who's getting funded by APAC and is getting like $2 million a week. It's crazy bad.
What?
And of course we all know why.
Yeah.
It says on my thing that I got one viewer watching right now. So
And that's
the audience has spoken.
Here's the thing. That's Mr. Jeffrey Thorne, comic book writer extraordinaire, who always joins us on Fridays. Good to see you again, Mr. Thorne. Welcome as always. I know you weren't supposed to see me today. I know this is probably a surprise, but yeah, welcome.
The Black Panther Blood Hunt tie-in event. Are there too many tie-ins to this event? Holy smokes.
Here's the thing. Just because there are tie-ins doesn't mean that you necessarily have to buy every tie-in. As I've said on Black Comic Lords on Fridays when we do our show, more often than not, over the past 10, 15 years, whenever they've had these summer cross-issue storylines, typically I will buy the main story and that's it, because they've somewhat been diluted over the past 20, 30 years. Back in the day, the cross-issue storylines used to be a big deal, right? Because they were so rare, so far in between. More recently, in the 2000s, they just seem to be a money grab because we have one every summer. Sometimes we have them twice a year. Back in the day, you may have had one every 3 to 4 years. Because think about it, back in, I want to say 82, maybe 84. 84, you had Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. That's the first one that I can recall. Then after that, you had like the Fall of the Mutants and Inferno and things of that nature. That didn't happen every year. Nowadays, it's just a money grab. However, that being said, this Blood Hunt series has been chef's kiss. I'm collecting the main book, Dracula, Spider Man, and of course, our man Black Panther. It has been phenomenal writing on those.
You even think the core series is okay?
I love the core series. I love the core series. I really, really am enjoying it.
All right. As Black Panther fans, we want him to be successful and and accomplished. So in when the comic book was starting and talking about how he didn't need the blood and he was like doing his best to resist the urge, I was so happy. I said, "Damn right. T'Challa doesn't need to have any blood. He's not going to do it." Until he finally did do it. And I was so mad that we couldn't go 3 issues without him with him being a vampire, but not the typical vampire. We couldn't have that. I was so mad.
Were you really? Being a vampire, vampirism is basically a virus. It's a virus that seems to take over your urges and inclinations. Mad respect to him for being able to resist drinking blood from a human against their will. I don't know if you're going to bring up any of the still shots or whatever of the book. Okay. So, for those who don't know, the Blood Hunt storyline involves Blade. Blade, in his own series written by Brian Edward Hill, was a 10-issue storyline where Blade had inadvertently released this big bad character named Adon. In order to defeat this ancient demon, Blade had to learn new ways, new tricks, new abilities. He went to Dracula, the king of the vampires, in order to gain new skills and abilities. He ended up defeating that character. Spoiler alert, Blade is the big bad of this Blood Hunt series. So he's the one who has made the world dark. He's the one who's taken out the Avengers off the board. He's the one who's killing millions of humans across the planet in order to make a vampire world, not just a vampire nation, but a vampire world. And I like how he actually defeated the Avengers. He and his group, the Blood Coven, they went up to the Avengers spaceship, which is their base of operations right now, and he defeated the Avengers. And he basically turned T'Challa. T'Challa was bitten by Blade. T'Challa is now a vampire. T'Challa goes back down to Wakanda, and he seeks help from his ancient spirits. And they were like, "Yeah, no, we're not interested in helping you."
Which to me is like, why? There has to be a reason why that one Panther who met him there and said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" "No, I'm here for aid, I want to help the people just the same way that you help them." Why
Right.
did that Panther have a cross with vampires and has like a history and goes, "No, no, this is what dooms us all. This is Scourge." Or does that Panther himself have a history? I think there might be something there. I would love for that because that would mean that T'Challa has a villain. I mean, an ancestor or a past Panther who is a villain of his. That would be interesting. We need more villains, and
Right.
then with the potential of that villain coming back to life, because once you're dead, you're not really permanently dead. We can have that person back, just like Kivuma was back. We can create something new. I want to leave this 3-issue series not with him solving the problem. I've become not a vampire anymore because we know that's how it's going to end. But I would like for something else to add on top of T'Challa's lore.
Here's what I think is going to happen. And this is one of the things that we said. Well, this is one of the things that I said on Friday. I don't know if you saw it or not, but I have a feeling and I'm hoping that the Blood Hunt series and Black Panther's 3-issue limited series leads to T'Challa being back on the throne. Because understand, Wakandans have been invaded by vampires. They were invaded by Atlantis, and they were invaded by the Phoenix Force, and those people and killed millions of Wakandans,
And
and
Will
so
Moss.
on, right, so on and so forth. Right, something that had not happened in the thousands of years of that nation. Well, now that T'Challa is no longer on the throne, and you have a parliament or whatever that it is who is supposedly running things, the vampires attacked on their watch, something that had not happened when T'Challa was there. So my hope is that a lot of those people who were in government were either turned and or killed, leading the way to T'Challa to come back to be on the throne.
Oh,
That's what I'm hoping.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it. Because I just want something to stick out, you know?
which makes sense.
And if he does become the king, that would be sort of like admitting to a mistake that they did. But that never happens. Like it's the same editor, Will Moss. No disrespect to Will Moss as a
No,
person.
mad disrespect to Will
All right,
Moss
all
because
right.
he's the one. Listen, I'm grown. He ain't gonna whip my ass. At the end of the day, he made a huge mistake in hiring that other writer whose initials are JR, who I will not, mention their name.
Uh-huh.
But we had 12, 15 issues of Black Panther just consistently being disrespected from issue number one, right? And Will Moss allowed that to happen. To hell with Will Moss, to hell with that other writer. That being said, hopefully they realize and recognize that the sales may have fallen off, but it's my understanding that Ultimate Black Panther, that's also written by Brian Edward Hill, who wrote the Blade series that I just mentioned, hopefully those numbers are really high because my understanding is some of those Ultimate Black Panther books, there's only 4 issues thus far. My
Yeah.
understanding is a couple of them are already on their second and third printing because this is the T'Challa that we, those of us who are fans, have come to know and love for the past 40, 58 years.
Absolutely. I'm gonna check some of the sales charts out. I don't remember them by heart. Control F Black Panther. So
I like
the
Spider Man as well.
issue number 3 of Black Panther, according to this, it was the 7th highest selling comic book. That is exceptional. That is shockingly high for issue 3. You would think that by then it would like peter
Peter
down
off.
to
Mm-hmm.
something. But the
Mm-hmm.
Avengers series only it was the 40th highest selling comic according to loose guesstimates. It was the 40th highest selling comic of that entire month of April. So Black
What was
Panther
number
3
one?
is
Just out of curiosity.
say that again?
What was number one? The other for April.
I don't know, but I'll put the thing back on the screen. And Control F is my friend, and I'll say Control F1. Oh, yeah, it's not. I can't find it right away.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
It probably put something new. Here it is. Ultimate Spider-Man number 4 was the
Which is
number one.
great. Which is really, really good. I was not impressed with Ultimate X-Men. I only got issue number one. I wasn't impressed with it. But Ultimate Spider-Man is really, really good. Um, but I won't necessarily say that it's better than Ultimate Black Panther. But the fact that Ultimate Black Panther is in the top 10 is a positive sign because I would think that it shows the number crunchers and bean counters that this is something that we're wanting, and that is Black Panther T'Challa being the kingly individual that we have known him to be over the past 58 years.
I said Black Panther when number 2 was in a top 10 top 10. I said it'll get worse off. Don't worry, guys. I mean, or rather, don't get too excited, guys. By issue number 3, we expect it to be out of the top 10, and then we'll see exactly where it's going to stick. This is just hype because of the shortens of comics. I was dead wrong. It's
Yeah,
doing better because I think it was number 8 and now it's number 7. That's mind-blowingly sick,
yeah.
and it's so nice to get reaffirmed that when Black Panther is
Treat it responsibly.
good writer, good
If
artist with a name artist.
the art is phenomenal.
Come on, man.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just confirmation to everything I've been touting. I'm surprised because I'm like, oh, this is Black Panther. A good Black Panther would be, he's outside the top 10, but at least he would be in the top 30. I would say that's a good Black Panther. We're
right,
getting places.
right.
The new Ultimate Universe has been fun so far. Salute. Now,
Agree.
speaking of the artwork, I loved that the artwork of the like monks of Wakanda, they got those vibranium
Yeah,
tattoos that Gentle from
yeah,
the X-Men, that guy has
correct,
also. Who
correct.
was thinking to put the vibranium tattoos? Is that Sherilyn Eaton? Do I give her credit for writing that in the script, or did the artist Fareed Karima? Is that him who did that decision? I don't know, but you noticed it too, didn't you?
I did, and it was extremely well done. Mad respect to the artist and the writer. This is how Black Panther is supposed to be done, and we're talking about the Blood Hunt Black Panther, not Ultimate Black Panther.
Yeah, we're talking about Blood Hunt Black Panther for
Yeah,
now.
right.
Those monks had some definition, like they were
Yeah,
bulky.
they, they are not unfamiliar with the gym. That is correct. Yeah,
With
those boys are diesel.
would you like to see them return? Like it looks like he's neutralized them. He kind of commanded them to stop. But since there's no more Hatutsuraze and we don't know if he's got control of the Dora, I would like for maybe him to be like, this wasn't just for a one issue thing. He's got the power to control these monks. Let's give them a name that's really African and funky, and have these be his next security guards for when he's returning to the throne.
Well, here's the thing, the Hattusaraze are still Wakandans, they're still there. They have just been decommissioned. And their situation kind of reminds me of the movie The Man in the Iron Mask, which starred Leonardo DiCaprio, probably like 1992, 1993, where he played King Louis the 14th or something like that. It's basically a Three Musketeers story. And in that version of the story, the Three Musketeers, or the Musketeers as a unit, had been decommissioned or disbanded. But when they were needed, they came out of retirement and helped to defend the king. That's what I'm hoping that we will see eventually, is that the Hattusaraze and even the Dora come back, because they're still in Wakanda. They're not jetting off to Brazil or America or whatever. They're still in the nation. They just don't have the jobs that they previously did. So they can always be reconstituted. And that's what I hope happens.
And man, I like to imagine that Wakanda has many capable fighters. You can just make a new organization of just the regular, even a normal Wakandan is more built and capable than the average American. In Vernon Zana, the Golden City, they returned to that place. It's been a while, and I think that the comic book understood that, which is why we kind of had him like pounced, or what do cats do on top of things? Perch?
Perch, yes.
Yeah, he had them all perched up there, and it was like the Golden City, and that was like a good recognition that he's been away from here. I mean, I got low standards for Marvel. I probably shouldn't be complimenting that portion, but hey, it was a thing. He was on top of a huge giant cat, and he was at the Golden City.
It was Batman-esque in the perching aspect of it, because that's one of the things that Batman is known for, is lurking and brooding, looking over the city that he's defending, because he knows that criminals are a cowardly lot. That's kind of what T'Challa was doing before he jumped into the fray to try to defend regular Wakandans against the vampires that had invaded Wakanda. And I have a big issue with that.
Oh,
And yeah. Well, here's the thing. This is what I said on Friday. T'Challa being the premier tactician in Marvel, I would think that he would have had something in place to prevent mystical threats from crossing his borders. The reason why I say that, if you read, it was in probably Blood Hunt #1, I think, where some vampires tried to cross into Latveria. Latveria is run by Dr. Doom, who is one of the top 5 mystics on planet Earth, and he ain't number 5. He already had in place wards and protections that automatically burnt up any vampires that tried to cross his borders. You would think that T'Challa, having the foresight that he normally does, knowing that vampires are not new to Marvel
yep.
616, would have already had that in place. Even if he wasn't the king, the mystical property should already be in place to protect the nation. And the fact that that wasn't done, I think, is a failure on him as a king.
If those 15 issues are canon, well, there were protocols for if an Avenger goes awry, and Blade was one of the Avengers who was a vampire. There should be anti-vampire protocols for Wakanda,
Correct.
and Jahai was probably the guy who was gonna be in charge of that, but Jahai died, so that's why. That's all.
But here's the thing, though, and I hear what you're saying, and one of the things that I was saying on Friday is that even if T'Challa is no longer the monarch, you would think that mystic wards and barriers would automatically be in place and not disappear the minute T'Challa was no longer the king, especially considering the fact that he's not a sorcerer himself. For
You would
example,
think that. You would think that because you
right,
would assume that the leader of Wakanda wants Wakanda to prosper and not destroy it from the inside. That's why.
right, right. And if when it comes to spells, I'm not a magician or a wizard or anything of that nature, but if a magician creates a spell, I would think, unless there was a counter spell or that wizard or magician died, the spell would go away. I wouldn't think it would be tied to the fact of who is the ruler of the nation. So the fact that they didn't have those wards in place makes me think that they did not exist. And so, as I said, I think that's a failure.
Sorry,
You
I
did.
got the. I keep doing that because like I'm occupied and things are happening on the side. Oh, man, let me share my screen to show you exactly what just happened. All right, boom. I was on Instagram and I got a comment from Noise Control. He said to me, "You are so on point, chill. Love this, fam." He wrote that 41 seconds ago. So that's what I was looking at. Sorry. Go follow me on Instagram, like, comment, subscribe, and all that. I mean, follow, I should say. Anyways, listen, I aggressively relax and says Blade needs to start franchising. These vampires are out of control.
Well, he's the one who's controlling them. So I mean, there's only so much you can do.
What do you think about his like negotiation tactics with T'Challa when he's speaking to him? Do you, why I think it's smart to have them like this rather than being more like Namor T'Challa, because we know that 6 issues from now the Blood Hunt issues will be done. You know, the issue will be resolved, and I just don't want to be like, man, you guys remember what he was saying back in that 2024 comic? I don't know why Blade and T'Challa are so good with each other. That's why I like that the way that they spoke to each other this week was last week. It was like a cooler, heads prevailing conversational tone.
The reason why that was is you have to understand you're talking about basically a dom sub relationship, because that's what it is. The Blade is the master to T'Challa. Blade is the dom to T'Challa's sub. So your sub is not going to talk back to you. You know, they may talk back, but it's going to be very, very limited. And because Blade turned T'Challa into a vampire, Blade is the master, as I said, of T'Challa. So T'Challa can't do but so much. You know, he can't have conflict with his own master because of how vampirism works, the mythology of vampirism works. So that reminds me of the movie Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. If you have never seen that movie, I don't care what anybody says. I think it came out in 2014. That was one of the best movies that calendar year. Phenomenal film. But you saw that same thing happen. There was a vampire played by, who's my guy who played Howard Stark in Captain America?
Uh-huh.
I can't remember his name right now. I can see his face; it's clear as day. But he was also in Peggy Carter. But anyway, he was turned by another vampire, and he tried to kill him. But because he was turned by that vampire, you can never raise your hand against the person who turned you. So that's the same type of situation. There's nothing that T'Challa can do directly against his master. You know, he can buck at the range a little bit, but that's about it.
I think the Blood Hunt series can be adapted in the Blade movies. That would be
No,
really
because
expensive.
they can't even make a regular Blade movie. No, it can't. How many rewrites have we had? How many directors have left? No, Johnny Washington. No, it can't.
If they ever did a crossover, it wouldn't be for a Blade movie with a crossover. They'll do Captain America Civil War. They won't do Blade and hire all these actors for that. It just wouldn't happen.
But you
We're
know
not
what
there.
though? You know, we know that Kang is supposed to be the big bad of this upcoming volume, right? With whether it's Jonathan Majors, whoever, we know over the next 3 to 5 years, that's the direction that they're going. To
Hmm.
answer Mr. Washington's question, could that be an overall storyline? Yes, it very well could be if you had the right director and the right actor. All due respect to Mahershala Ali, Mahershala Ali is damn near as old as I am. He was miscast in this role because he's just too old at this point. They should have gone with somebody in their 30s, 40s at the latest, so that person can play this role for the next 10 to 15 years. Having the Blood Hunt storyline is a 10-year down the road story. Mahershala Ali would be in his 60s. No, they cannot have that, especially with him in that role.
I'm sorry, Johnny, to do that to you. I mean, we could have said maybe. You know how some YouTubers do that? They keep a smile on their face and they keep things pushing. No, you got the
No,
real.
it would make a great story, especially if that's the overall storyline. Like if you set it up in Blade, and had in Blade 2 he has to fight the Adana, then in Blade 3 he turns bad, and then Blade 4 you have the Blood Hunt. That would be perfect. But because they can't even get movie number 1 off the ground, no. When did they announce Mahershala Ali as Blade? This is 2024. They announced him when? 2020. It doesn't take that long to make a movie, folks.
2019 actually.
Yep.
So Shuri in this comic book was cool, and she was the old Shuri. Her line specifically at the moment where that one vampire person kind of came up, she pew pewed. She said, "Sorry, I've only a swift and bloodless death to serve you." That
Correct.
is not Letitia Wright Shuri, and
No.
it's cool for Cheryl Lynn Eaton to do that. The Letitia Wright Shuri, or the movie Shuri that we've been seeing in our comic books, has been happening for so long now. It's been 5 years or so. To see Shuri act like regular Shuri was actually off-putting. But I'll just forgive. I'm gonna make an excuse. I'm gonna say that last 5 years of comic book Shuri acting off light and teenagey, I'll I'll just ignore that. The same way I'm ignoring the fall of X stuff ever since Hickman stopped writing. The same way I'll just ignore that portion of X-Men history. I'll just ignore the Shuri stuff.
If you guys want to see some good Shuri comics, you have to read, and I think it's volume 5 by Reginald Hudlin, that also led into the 4-issue Claws of the Panther storyline. So we're talking 16 issues from about 9 years ago at this point, that shows you a very dominant Shuri, because Shuri had to take over for T'Challa after he was injured during the Doom War storyline. That very, very, very good, very well written Shuri. Yeah.
So the
And this, and
volume.
basically piggyback off of what Chill is saying,
You're right. It
Shuri.
was volume 5.
I'm sorry.
You're right. It was volume 5.
Yes. I've done this before. Um, um, Shuri harkens back. The Shuri in the Blood Hunt storyline harkens back to this Shuri from Volume 5 and Claws of the Panther. So that was Volume 5 was a 12-issue limited series, and then you had Claws of the Panther that was around the same time.
Yeah.
It was 4 issues, correct?
I liked when I hated the art, but I liked when they kept saying stuff like "blood of the Panther God," and they had like their own lingo. That was nice.
Yeah.
If you're writing a Blade movie with comic adaptation, would you choose? Yes, Johnny. Yes, I would.
Well, he's asking which version of Blade will we choose. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Unlike my partner Paul, I have never ever been a Blade fan. I am not that familiar with his stories. I'm not familiar with his mythos, so I can't tell you which storyline would be good for Blade. I came to Blade late, even though his movie dropped in 1998. That didn't spur me to go buy his comics if they even existed, because I don't think that they did. But over the past 4 years or so, Blade has been making regular appearances in the Avengers, which I collect, and he had the 10-issue storyline from Brian Edward Hill that I picked up. That was very, very extremely good. Other than that, I can't say what storylines he had to bring to live action. But the Adana storyline is a good one. You just need to have a great story. Let me say, vampires have been part of the mythos and the cultural zeitgeist for over 100 years at this point. There have been a plethora of vampire related stories, some good, some not so good. Twilight. Why it's so difficult for them to get a director and a writer to get a guy in a black leather coat, a sword, and some shades, and to kill some vampires is beyond me. This is not rocket science, people. I said that Chad Zelhinsky, the guy who is behind the John Wick franchise, would be a perfect director to direct Blade. I don't know who would be a good screenwriter, but find somebody out there who is respectful of the source material, the way that Bo Billingsley is with X-Men 97. You show, watching that series, you know that he knows mythology and actually loves and respects the characters. Find you a writer to do that. Get Charles Zelhinsky to direct. Get somebody else other than Mahershala Ali to play the part. Yolande Noel is my number one choice for that. And you have a movie. You could put this for $30 million and have a great movie. But they're making it more difficult than it needs to be.
The comic book closes out with like the clock running down, or the sun has been down for 24 hours, and T'Challa's like laid out. And Blade, speaking to him, says, "Look at you, last of the first, best final champion, perhaps the strongest of my scions. groveling here on the ground. Now you know that we're reading the Black Panther comic when he says that you're one of the strongest, right? They
Right.
wouldn't say that in the main event.
Right.
Jed McKay wouldn't put that in his Avengers, okay?
Mhm. One
And
of the things that I found interesting is that me and Paul could not understand what he meant, the first, the last, or however that's phrased. I couldn't figure out what that means.
yeah,
Say that word. Read it again. Read it again.
a pathetic. He says, "Look at you, last of the first, Bast's final champion." Um,
Last of the first. I don't know what that means. I mean,
didn't Bast give him like some unprecedented powers?
yes, but last of the first.
So he was the first one to get those unprecedented powers that are like unique and make him special. But now you're the last because you're about to die. Like it won't even. No one else is getting this.
Mm, 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 mm. Very good. Very good.
Well, T'Challa doesn't like it. He tries to fight him back, and things don't turn out well for him. He gets another little meet up with Shuri, and I hate seeing him down. I hate seeing Wakanda down, but this is issue number 1.
Yep.
And unlike what's his face from last couple years ago, I do have faith by the time we get to 3, we'll be in a great place.
Correct. I agree with that. I'm looking forward to number 2. I am hoping, as I said earlier on, that this leads to T'Challa being back on the throne. All I can do is cross my fingers, but understand that's not uncommon for a monarch in a comic book to be deposed and then come back. When you think of Thor, I'm a Thor guy. I used to be, before Black Panther became my favorite, Thor was my favorite. There
Mm.
have been plenty times when he was out of favor with Asgard, but then came back and he's now the All Father because Odin is off in Valhalla. I'm not a Aquaman fan, but it's my understanding that he, has been deposed from Atlantis many times and come back to rule such and so forth. Same
Okay.
thing with Namor. I don't know what Atlantis is looking like in Marvel comic books now, but he's been the king, even though they called him Prince Namor, but he was the king, deposed, come back, blah blah blah. So none of those nations went full fledged, did a 180 and changed their style of government. So it's somewhat different, but I'm hoping it reverts back to the way it was, which was again a hereditary monarchy.
The final page. What do you think about this before I show you the right side of the page? What do you think about this?
T'Challa is Diesel, number one.
Uh-huh.
Number two, I don't like the cape, but this image right here shows me someone who is strong and determined. That's what I see. I see determination from this.
Not what I was going for. What I was going for was that the artist said, an homage to Spider-Man No More. Black Panther Blood Hunt issue number 1 is out now. So this was the, I guess, next to the dumpster where he takes off the suit and Peter Parker
Right,
walks
right,
off.
right. So we don't have a dumpster with Spider-Man's costume in it. That's what's missing.
Oh yeah, I guess with the dumpster, that's when you would
Right,
have got onto it.
right,
Even the
exactly.
movie did it with Norman with
That is
the,
correct.
and I did recognize it when it happened there.
Yep, yep.
The next comic book is the Ultimate Black Panther, another $5 comic, so it's not a 20 pager. It was 25 or 26. These are too long for my liking. Do you feel that way? The
Not
wait
at
is too long. The wait is too long to get them. There's 5 weeks or 6 weeks between each issue.
okay. So you say that, and I'm not gonna say that I disagree,
Mhm.
but one of the best comic books I've ever read was A Vicious Circle number 2. I have mentioned that before on Black Comic Lords.
And you made me read it, and man, that pencil-y style wasn't for me. It's unique, but shout out to A Vicious Circle.
A Vicious Circle story, art, it was phenomenal. That book came out like August of last year. We're not getting a number 3 until supposedly August of 2024. So we're talking 12 months between titles or between issues. So waiting 4 to 6 weeks for these books, that's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? To me.
Because if they're good forever, and you're more likely to read something twice, unlike,
Correct.
the regular disposable copies that will collect them just in case something special happened that will be turned into like a card TV series or who knows.
Right.
We just hope that these comics are going to be of value. But 90% of these, 99% of these comic books, they're one-time reads, and that's it.
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah.
Aside from that stuff, though, like the storylines, there were stories in here. We got to see T'Challa returning to Ultimate T'Challa returns to Wakanda, and he brought some friends with him, but we don't see them yet. When it started, and Okoye, his wife, was speaking to the masses and lying to them, I kind of knew she was lying. Even I kind of knew she was lying. I didn't think that T'Challa was back, and don't worry, we got communication. I kind of knew that. I knew, but I wasn't ready for how much time passed in between the last issue to this issue.
That's one of the things that surprised me as well, because in the book, so for those who don't know, if you're not reading Ultimate Black Panther, you need to be. But there are a couple of guys named Khonshu and Ra, collectively known as Moon Knight, who are basically trying to invade Wakanda surreptitiously. T'Challa, knowing that there are people in his borders who are raising havoc, goes out on his own to try to figure out what's going on. That was a mistake. Number two, what we read this issue, which was issue number 4, correct? In this issue, we learned that he's been gone for a month, maybe 2 months. Was it just a month or was it 2 months? I don't remember, because if I'm
Probably two.
yeah, it's between 1 to 3 months that your leader has been gone. Just imagine if President Biden was gone, had nobody seen him in 3 months. Just a,
President Biden has been gone for multiple months.
whatever, dude, whatever. What's y'all's president's name?
He looks just like you,
Doc Perot. What's his name?
Justin Trudeau.
Trudeau. All right. So just imagine if Justin Trudeau was just missing, no press conferences, no nothing for a month to 3 months. That would raise concerns in that nation, right? And when you are the Black Panther, not only are you the president, but you are the leader of the religious Panther cult. So if nobody saw the Pope, as an example, for a month to 3 months, those Catholics out there in the world be like, okay, where the hell is our spiritual leader? That's a huge mistake. And the fact that he did that showed, okay, look, to me, it shows a lack of foresight, because when you are the ruler, there are certain things that you can and cannot do, should and should not do. When T'Challa was the ruler of Wakanda, but he was running off with the Avengers, everybody in the world could see that he was an active member of the Avengers, right? It was making press, blah, blah, blah. Nobody has known where T'Challa has been, even though Okoye is sitting up here lying. So I think that's, politically a mistake.
Okoye and Ultimate Shuri have this little beef that they've going, this tension between the two.
Yeah.
I hope it leads to some sort of like fight, because by the ending of it, spoilers, by the ending of it, she are on the same team. They're part of that inner circle that only T'Challa can trust these 5 people. So like, is that it? Is that it? Like the literal fighting from an issue ago, and now it's just disagreement. Is that resolved? I hope not, and of course it wouldn't be.
Well, I think it is resolved for those who don't know about what T'Challa's talking about. So, T'Challa, to what Killmonger's talking about. T'Challa was gone. And so Shuri is out, in the field training, and, in the backyard or whatever, training. Okoye comes to confront her. They're talking about, what's going on. Shuri's not in the mood, turns her back on Okoye. Okoye is like, look, I'm the queen. I don't care what you think. Don't turn your back on me. The two of them start fighting. Shuri wins, right? That was a fight not of anger, but of to show control and dominance. So I think that's somewhat different than what you normally see when enemies fight. It's like, oh my God, I hate you. I want to destroy you. That wasn't that. That fight wasn't, you're my enemy. I want to destroy you. That's not how I took that.
No, and
So,
by the ending, by this, when she's asleep, Okoye is asleep, and she was about to get assassinated. Here comes Shuri. Well, I got it. Okay, Queen, hold on, and kind of fight. But she did make sure to call Okoye her queen. So there
right.
isn't any sort of
There's no
cattiness.
animosity between them.
It isn't like that. It's just like these are hard heads. And does that
Yes.
need to be seen in comic books?
Not
Maybe
really.
in media, maybe fine. Maybe Brian Edward Hill was going for that. But all right. But speaking of that assassination attempt, the whole cinematic, the drop of sweat, and then the
Hmm.
realizing, oh my God, it's sweat, and all that. Nah, You know what? That whole body was covered. Where did the sweat come from, huh? If you got a bodysuit.
That reminds me of one of the James Bond movies when he was over in Japan. And I want to say it was Thunderball, but that's probably not it. I don't remember which one it was. But anyway,
Somebody in the chat will say.
right. So basically, James Bond is lying in bed with this woman, of course, and there's a ninja in the rafters. And one of the ways that ninja used to try to assassinate people with poison is they would put a string down to the person's mouth, right? And then they would put the poison on the string so it would go drip right down to the person's mouth, right? That's kind of what that's what I had in my mind's eye when the assassin was up top in the rafters. Even though it wasn't done exactly, but that's what it reminded me
Oh, it makes more sense than what I saw.
of.
And it was a big loogie of a sweat drop. So Shuri goes on the hunt, and there's like a bunch of images of just Shuri's eye, and then Shuri dropping and ascending from that high building that she just came out of. Like, it's cinematic, a trail of blood. Everything was no words and just images. And Brian Edward Hill has to be cut from a different cloth to have these like pages of no words and just watching the characters interact. And I feel silent. I feel silence and tension building every time I go from someone's got their eyebrows down like this, and we see blood on the panel. It was very very well written and drawn by expert artist Stefano Caselli.
Basically, what we are seeing are storyboards. For those who don't know, storyboards are
Storyboards.
how directors frame the shots that they're about to make. You'll have an artist, the script will call for, the script has the dialogue, and then the director tries to frame how they want to shoot it, where the camera will be, et cetera, et cetera. That's where the storyboards come in. It gives the director an idea of how to shoot. This is what Brian Edward Hill has been doing based on what Chillmonger is saying when he says cinematic, because you could see if this were real life, you could see the camera at this position framing the scene in the way that it has been portrayed on the page. So I do agree with you that it has been cinematic. Yeah.
That's right. With shoot. There was a moment where she says a word, the enemy says a word, Ishwashu, and then Shuri was like, I'm hurt. She didn't even get touched. Is that Voodoo Khan related?
I don't think so because we're in the Ultimate Universe.
But
So I don't.
the Voodoo Khan, the ultimate, maybe I got the name wrong, but when T'Challa, after T'Chaka died, he was like, let me go visit them at the temple. Who are those women?
Yes. I know what you're talking about. I'll have to go back and read those to see. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I hadn't thought about that.
Okay.
Basically, the assassin said some word that was kind of like a spell that adversely affected Shuri.
Yeah.
But that was like
Found an
2
image.
issues ago, so I just don't remember everything. Yeah.
This and we know that the assassin is formerly of Wakanda, who is now a
Right.
traitor and joined the foreigners. Shout out to Rwanda.
Okay,
We
so
we
check this
know
out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
since we know that this is a Wakandan, I think that's some like Wakandan product. Maybe you needed the hair of Shuri before you could do something like that, and because she's a Wakandan, that's where she obtained it, and that's why she can do this spell on Shuri. Or maybe like that's really significant, and I hate that we're gonna lose this character like in a few pages from right here. This character's
Right.
not gonna exist anymore. I think like that's potential. Like imagine there's a character who can just kind of control other characters. I want to know why and how, but we're not gonna get answers to that mystery.
Here's the thing. Okay, pull that page back up if you would,
Uh-huh.
please. Now, we see this image of the assassin who's on the left side of the screen that we're watching. If you recall to issue number 2, when T'Challa was with Killmonger and they go into that cave, you see statues or carvings on the outside of the cave. And when we did our Black Comic Lords live that Friday after issue number 2 dropped, somebody in the comments said that one of the images looked like Kane. Well, that's what this lady looks like because Kane has those lines down his face. So to me, that wasn't Kane on the relief or on those images outside of the cave. it was that person. So to me, it seems that that person could be part of some type of ancient Wakandan sect never before seen because we
But
saw them. Go ahead.
because she says that Khonshu found me blind, it makes it sound like it was found recently, not I was found ancient years ago, because those temples were way ancient, as
Ancient, right,
Killmonger
right.
said. So this woman, this threat, she's either been like a normal 20-something-year-old, or she's a 2,000-year-old being. Which of the two are you saying?
I'm saying that I think that this person is part of a sect, a part of some type of assassin sect or religious cult or something where they mark themselves. Because think about what we were just saying with the blood hunt Black Panther. A lot of the priests in the temple had the same look. So translating that over to Ultimate Black Panther, that lady who looks like one of those statues has the same look, probably of some type of ancient sect or cult. That's what I'm thinking.
Now, with the way that T'Challa stepped in, how did he take care of her? He was holding some little triangle, and it looked silver, so vibranium. Do you remember that?
No, because I haven't read that book in a minute. Can you pull up the image or
Yeah, I can pull up an image. It'll just take a second for me to hit
yeah.
screenshot, which I'm doing now. And then I gotta paste it into Microsoft Paint, and then I
So
gotta
what
crop
I
it.
think probably happened is that, and that's one of the things that we said also, and hopefully it pays off. We don't know what happened in that cave. We don't know the significance of that cave yet. So I'm hoping in the next couple of issues that that pays off. You know, that would be a huge plot thread to just have it dangling out there.
Do you see how it changed color, right? And it's all orangey, but there's
Right.
something that is getting this
Striking her
villain,
hand. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can see it say swoosh. You can see there's a device that T'Challa is using to take control of this person.
Yeah. I'm guessing it might be something that he learned or discovered in that cave, perhaps.
Yes, me too. I would say also that is something that he just picked up on.
Mhm.
And do we need T'Challa to have boosts? Well, this is Ultimate T'Challa, not T'Challa. So I'm for whatever update, whatever bell and whistle you want to give him to make him unique. And then, of course, these are experimental. So maybe somewhere in the future, whatever it was that cracked the back also of her, and whatever swooshed her, whatever it is that he's using, that needs to show up in a movie or show up on a TV show, and let's see how it looks in animation or or some movement. Because because that's why we have these ultimate universes, so that we can be experimental, and it's not actual T'Challa, even though he's being respected and treated like T'Challa, and this comic is selling well.
This is the
Crazy,
best
right?
T'Challa that we've seen. All due respect to Dr. Eve Ewing, but this is outside of Jeffrey Thorne's one shot. This has been the best I feel that T'Challa has been shown in quite some time, consistent. He showed up in Captain America, Sam Wilson. What is it? Truth, Symbol of Truth, or whatever it is. He was pretty cool in that. He's been decent in the Avengers book, but as far as his own title, even though it's an ultimate title, this is the best that I've seen T'Challa in quite some time.
Do you remember anything Raw and Khonshu said when they were speaking and the camera cut to them for a little bit? Because who cares? They're just like, fine, all right, we'll do it ourselves. We shouldn't underestimate the T'Challa. That's all they said, and whatever. We didn't need them to say that. We knew that they were the primary enemy. We know that they could be expected to pull up on Wakanda anytime. So if they show up in issue number 5, I'd rather it be a surprise. Oh no, business just picked up, instead of this, which what am I supposed to do? Anticipate that they're going to be coming in number 5? Just keep it surprised.
I want there to be a bigger payoff with those two. They're somewhat in the shadows right now. I would like to see them throw hands. To be quite frank with you, um, I want to see what their abilities are.
How are they going to fight? How are they going to fight? So we close out with Okoye talking to Ultimate T'Challa, very angry. Okay, I don't have any problem with this. People who disrespect the king and we got to protect T'Challa and don't let this happen. Shut up, man. That's the wife and a husband. You're always going to have that. I don't care who you are in the world. You get that.
Having never been married, I assume that this is how married couples talk to each other. They talk to each other real. Even though the public face that you put on may be somewhat different,
The doors are
behind
closed.
closed door, right, behind closed doors, you give them the real. Um, the only thing that I will say is, as a dude, as a male, like, look, woman, you're not gonna be talking to me like that.
Say that again. I can't hear him. Something was
Oh, sorry,
pulled.
I pushed. I
Okay.
said basically, I said that Paul was stupid. If you pull up the Black Comic Lord's chat, the comment that he just made, he said, "Yeah, that." And I will say this: back in the '90s, I do have to thank Brother Snipes because I used to get that like every other day. People would say I look like Wesley Snipes, and that was very beneficial.
Oh man. I was done talking about the wife stuff. It closed out. Killmonger, Storm, T'Challa, Shuri, Okoye.
Okoye.
That is the
I think those
superhero team.
twins. I think those twins need to be part of it as well. The guys from issue number one, who were his spies, who brought the fact that Khonshu and Ra, I didn't mean that. Yeah, yeah, that they were in the nation. I think that they need to be brought into the inner circle too, because I think that they're loyal. And in fact, they're the ones who should have been out there in the field anyway, trying to find out what's going on, not T'Challa.
One of them was named Anon. The other was Faxul. Faxul.
Yeah, those brothers, they need to be brought into the inner circle because I think they're loyal.
So T'Challa was saying that even they can't know about this and tell the Voodoo Khan nothing also.
The Voodoo Khan, I understand, but those two dudes, they're like Secret Service, and so they're loyal. So I don't understand why he would not include them as well.
Because they spend too much time outside of Wakanda, and that's where you get compromised. Just like who I believe that assassin is. You spend too much time outside, you kind of get the customs of the rest of the world. And the movie Killmonger, wasn't he like born and raised in Oakland? That's why he viewed things the way he viewed.
Yeah.
That's why a spy is always a spy, because a spy could have been compromised and caught, and then the country could have made a deal. Okay, now go be a double spy for us in Wakanda. They'll never trust.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I understand. I understand.
Ooh, very, very thoughtful, very intriguing. Let's close it out.
Real quick, you watch X-Men 97, yes?
Yeah.
The very last episode, we saw that the Sentinels had attacked Wakanda. We saw the Dora helping defend Wakanda. We also saw the Black Panther. Then a couple of scenes later, it was not T'Challa Black Panther,
Yeah.
but it was T'Chaka, his father. What did you think about that?
You don't watch my videos.
I don't watch anybody's videos, too.
That is true. You don't watch it. You don't seem like you watch anybody's videos. I'm going to end this video with my video, okay? Because I did specifically a Instagram about that. So let's go back to Chillmonger's Instagram, and you're gonna react to what I posted back when that happened. It was comedic. It was good. Profile. That one there. I'm not sharing. Sorry. That one there.
Kevin Feige himself. Oh my God, the head of Marvel. So we've been honoring continuity, but in the finale, we saw T'Chaka in a T'Challa design. So that messes up the continuity. If it's in the 90s universe, there was the Fantastic Four in the 90s universe as well, and T'Challa wore that exact same suit, and he is T'Challa. So that's a little bit confusing.
Oh, that's not canon anymore. And T'Chaka did make an appearance in season 4. That was always T'Chaka. We knew that in 27 years the series would be rebooted because Marvel Studios will have been a success. We actually called it back then, and for that reason, T'Chaka was always who the Black Panther was at this period in time.
At this particular period,
in this era,
because I remember seeing a Spider-Man cameo, and I believe Bo DeMaio said it was Peter Parker. So Peter Parker got bit at this time, and then
Peter Parker was bit at this time, and it was T'Chaka during this time.
Doctor Strange was also there doing magic, and as far as I know,
Doctor Strange does know how to use magic, and he did learn during T'Chaka's era.
Cap out of the ice.
That definitely happened, most certainly. Currently, Captain America's out of ice during T'Chaka's era as Black Panther.
So Tony Stark in the suit also.
And Tony Stark is a boy genius, and he's pretty young underneath that suit. This is T'Chaka's era of Black Panther with a Tony Stark. Yeah.
But he was fully grown and in the conference with the president. I don't think they'd let a
So a
kid
lot of these
up.
superheroes like Cloak and Dagger, a lot of these superheroes, Daredevil, they're always masked. They're a lot younger than what you think.
Okay. Last thing, Morph. He's been killing it with the cameos, right? We got to see Hulk, Quicksilver. We even got to see Mr. Fantastic, who looks like the Mr. Fantastic from the '90s cartoon that you said is not canon.
Do I got to Ash Ketchum on you? Listen. When it comes to uplifting characters, there are some who have a higher priority than others. Lamar Kendrick put it best. They aren't like us.
They
Fucking black people.
That's-
Well, I guess it wouldn't be funny for you to read these, but what?
Oh God. So basically, first off, that's the first time that I've ever seen Buckmeister, and it's the first time I've ever heard his voice. I've been following him. We've been Facebook friends for a very long time. If you put in the hashtag recast T'Challa on the Twitters, you will find Buckmeister because he tweets literally every day about recast T'Challa. Mad shout out to that brother. But I've never heard his voice. I've never seen him before. But he clearly does not understand your brand of sarcasm. And that's why I just sit over here laughing.
No, it was a skit. It was a skit. He completely understood everything.
So he knew. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was putting on my Kevin Feige hat. That was my Kevin Feige.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah,
So
he
yeah,
got
that
it.
was a huge continuity error. I don't know why they. Well, logically, I don't understand why they did it, but conspiracy theory wise, it seems as if Marvel is doing everything that they can to erase T'Challa from live action and cartoons.
It was a mistake. Now there's a mandate. That character was not supposed to happen.
Nope.
We're out. Thanks for joining us for this hour. You can watch Dre Mack, who's got a YouTube channel, and he's streaming the Blerd AF with he and Mika. They're live right now. That's where I'm going to go watch. We're out. Peace.
Peace.
Free Palestine.